Holy shit, you guys. Episode 4 of Dexter Resurrection was absolutely insane. Best episode yet. This season just seriously keeps on getting better and better. So today, let's talk about it. I'm Pamela, welcome back to the channel. In case you're new here, please subscribe to the channel because we will be covering all things Dexter throughout this entire season. We are breaking down every single episode, and episode 4, titled Call Me Red, was the longest episode I believe we've ever gotten in the whole franchise. It was over an hour. It was an hour and 6 minutes, and a lot of crazy stuff happened. So let's just get right into it. So the episode opens up with Dexter. He's in Red's apartment. We know that he previously killed him. Dexter is testing out the camera shy hoodie on his phone. And of course he's talking to Harry, and Harry thinks that he shouldn't go. He thinks that it could be a trap because as a former police officer, he says we used to bait suspects like that all the time. And Dexter doesn't think it's a trap. He says that the invitation was with Red's bloody driver's licenses, so they would have arrested him. And Dexter is like so excited about this. I love seeing him like this. It's so different from New Blood. I keep saying this new show, Resurrection, definitely feels like the original show. And Dexter has that excitement back. Like, he is so back to his old self. And we know from the previous episode that Dexter needs Red's thumbprint for entry. So he is doing some crazy thing where I don't even know what he did. He like took the skin off of Red's thumb, did something with it in the microwave, and he is like sealing it to his own thumb. I don't even know if this is like a real thing that you can do, but this is absolutely crazy. We get a quick scene with Harrison. The jewelry repair shop calls him because if you remember, Ryan Foster, the guy that he killed, gave Harrison his watch to get repaired. So the store calls him to let him know that the watch is ready for pickup. Harrison says, I'm caught up at work. They say no problem, we can drop it off at the hotel, and Harrison is like, no, don't worry, I'll come and pick it up. And then Charlie in her car picks up Red in Central Park. She rolls down her window, she says Ronald Schmidt, and he says, call me Red. And her look that she gave him is a little suspicious. Like, I'm wondering if maybe she knows what he's up to, that he's lying about his identity. Probably not, because she takes her job very seriously. Her role as Leon Prader's security, as we see in this episode, she takes her job very seriously. But this look that she kind of gives him when he says, call me Red, was a little suspicious. And then when she says that it took 3 weeks for her to find him, and she says, I have my ways. Maybe that's just foreshadowing that she will be the one to find him out towards the end of the season. And then they arrive at the mansion to meet Leon Prader, and she checks him before they go in, and she sees his trophy, and she looks kind of disgusted when she sees it, which I think is interesting because when she found Red's trophies in his apartment initially, she called him a fucking psycho. So I don't know, I just think it's interesting that she is in this business of like acquiring these serial killers for Prader, but she kind of looks down on them at the same time. And so when Dexter tries to gain entry, he uses the thumbprint, and it wasn't working at first, and I was super scared. She's like super suspicious of him, and it ended up working though. He says that it was just sweaty, he wipes it off, he gets in luckily, and his heart is pounding. He feels his chest, which reminded me of the original show. In the original show, we get some flashbacks to when he's a teenager and he is like standing at the edge of a building, and Harry thinks that he's gonna jump off, and he says, no, I just wanted to feel something. So like I said earlier, he is super excited about what is going on, and he is just feeling like his old self to me. So he finally meets Leon Prader. This is our first time seeing Peter Dinklage in the show, and he is just so excited to meet Red. And Dexter asks him what he does, and Prader is like, wow, you're really off the grid, because Prader is a well-known billionaire and Dexter doesn't know who he is. And we see Prader's full room of his collection, his serial killer collection. He has trophies of so many well-known serial killers. I absolutely loved this scene. There is a lot going on in it. So we see that he has Pogo the Clown, and as soon as I saw this outfit, I was like, this is John Wayne Gacy for sure. And they did show a scene from Original Sin. I don't know if you guys peeped that. So in Original Sin, when Dexter is on the computer doing some research, he looks up John Wayne Gacy, and younger Dexter sort of like hallucinates him there in the room with him. So they reuse that scene from Original Sin, which I actually think is one of the show creators. It might have been Scott Reynolds. I know one of them got into costume that day. Prader has Jeffrey Dahmer's fridge. He has something from Ted Bundy. And Dexter says, "You really like serial killers." And Prader says, "I pride myself on finding the best of the best in every field, so why not death?" And this is where I was losing my mind. He had Trinity's hammer. And Dexter has a flashback to him killing Trinity. And they talk about how he actually killed in fours. So already just from that, I'm losing my mind, loving the scene. And then we find out that he has Dexter's slides, his blood slides. And Prader says, "I bought these off an FBI agent with a gambling problem." So that was interesting to me. I wonder who it was, what went down with that. Dexter says internally, "I've missed you, friends," and he touches them like he used to, running his finger down them, and Prader says, "Please don't touch." So I'm assuming this is his collection of blood slides from season 2 that he got rid of after Dokes was on to him. And then Prader also has the ice truck killer table. The table that he used to, like hang his victims upside down to bleed them out. The table that Dexter killed Brian on, and Dexter's having flashbacks to that. And Prader says, "Tragic, I know. Maybe if Brian Moser had someone to talk to, someone like himself, he'd still be here today." And then we see some of the other trophies of the serial killers that we meet in this episode finally. We have Rapunzel's ponytails, the tattoo collector literally skins the tattoos off of his victims. And Dexter asks him, like, everyone trusts you with all of this evidence? And we sort of see Charlie in action here because Prader says if anyone puts in the wrong code just once, an alarm goes off and Charlie takes care of it. And she comes in with her gun. And Dexter says to himself internally, "I know it takes one to know one, but this guy is nuts." And then we finally meet Mia, aka Lady Vengeance. I've been so excited to finally meet her character. And we do find out that she takes out sexual predators. So I've been wondering if she has a code similar to Dexter. I was hoping that she did. And oh my god, I loved her so much in this episode. And Dexter asks himself, does she have a code? And she talks about the media's obsessions with nicknames for serial killers like Lady Vengeance, and she kind of like rolls her eyes at it, but I'm thinking to myself, that is a sick name, Lady Vengeance. And then Dexter sees the meat that's going to be served, and he says to himself, this keeps getting better and better. And I'm just thinking, oh my god, he is about to be served vegan food because we know that Red is vegan. We find out that Rapunzel has a whole family. He has a wife and 4 kids. Dexter's kind of jealous, questioning him about it, like how can you handle both lifestyles? And Rapunzel says it's self-care so that he can show up better for his family. Also, I thought Neil Patrick Harris's entrance was so Barney Stinson coded. If you've seen How I Met Your Mother, his character Lowell, aka the tattoo collector, did remind me of Barney a little bit. And then we get a quick scene with Batista showing up to Lance's house. That is Harrison's friend who he sold the truck to. Batista's there to see Dexter, and Lance tells him he bought it off Harrison. So I'm like freaking out at this point. I knew this was going to happen, but just the fact that Batista is getting closer and closer. And then Dexter is still hanging out with all the serial killers, and he's sort of smirking to himself, and he seems like he's actually kind of enjoying himself a little bit. I'm sure it's a strange feeling being amongst so many other killers. People sort of like him, but not really. And then finally the Gemini killer shows up, and they mention how he was kind of like a weirdo in high school, and Dexter says, yeah, I felt like an alien. So even though he's lying about who he is and his identity, he's also kind of opening up. Rapunzel asks if Keith is coming. We find out in a previous episode that Keith is also known as the Canton Clubber, and Charlie killed him. He broke the rules. So we find out in this episode that Prader has strict rules, and if you break them, they'll kill you. And then sure enough, Dexter is served vegan food to his dismay, and Prader says Charlie found vegan products and cookbooks in your apartment. And if it was me, I would just be like, oh, I'm just kind of like vegan curious. A lot of people like dabble in veganism. Sometimes they just enjoy having occasional vegan meals, but they're not 100% vegan. If I was Dexter, that's the route I would have went. And then the tattoo collector is putting on a little show and tell, Prader expects them to kind of share with the group, like their process of what they do and, you know, their trophies and everything. So the tattoo collector is talking about his next victim, who he's kind of stalking a little bit, and they all talk about their urge to kill. Lowell says how what happens next is inevitable. I feel the pressure rise. Mia says she calls it the itch. Rapunzel calls it the need. The Gemini killer calls it the great yearning, and Dexter says that he calls it the urge, but really it's the dark passenger. But I guess he can't say that because that is the nickname that the media gave him, or gave Red rather. And Dexter does not do his own little presentation, but the money that we left for you was so that you will show and tell. So he's expected to show and tell next time. And Dexter asks, there's going to be more of these dinners? And Prader says he has so many events planned for the next 2 weeks. So the rest of this season is just going to be non-stop. I cannot wait. And then Batista and Harrison finally meet, and this scene was so intense. Oh my god. Batista brings up Jamie, his sister, who used to babysit Harrison, and Harrison remembers her. We find out that Jamie finished her PhD. She is now a middle school principal. So Batista and Harrison sit down to have a drink and talk. They're kind of reminiscing a little bit. Batista says, last time I saw you was for your 4th birthday. I got you a train set, and Harrison remembers that as well. And then they sort of talk about how close Batista and Dexter were. Dexter was a witness at his wedding with Maria. And then Batista says, your dad's the reason I was in Iron Lake. And Harrison says, so you heard the news, he was shot and killed. And Batista doesn't say anything. He keeps quiet for a minute. He thinks about it for a second and chooses not to say he's alive. He says, I'm sorry for your loss. So the gears are just turning in Batista's head. He is already putting things together. And he says to Harrison, I heard you were in Iron Lake and left in a hurry. And Harrison says, turns out he wasn't the dad I needed. And then Batista calls Dexter out for being the Big Harbor Butcher. And Harrison's denying it. And Batista says, you can tell me anything, your dad's gone. But Harrison is still denying it. And I am like cheering in this moment. I'm like, let's fucking go, Harrison. Keep your mouth shut. This is crazy that Batista knows Dexter's alive, but he's using the fact that Harrison thinks he's dead to his advantage, or at least he's trying to. And then Elsa sees Batista with the badge and says to him, if you think Harrison had anything to do with that murder, and she mentions how Ryan got chopped up and put in garbage bags. So again, Batista is just putting everything together. I knew this was gonna freaking happen. This is insane. And then back at Prader's mansion, Dexter is looking up Lady Vengeance on the internet, and there's articles about her and her code that she follows. Mia doesn't really like Lowell. She's kind of putting him in his place, setting a boundary. And between Dexter and Mia, there is already a little bit of flirty tension, and I absolutely love it. They briefly talk about mommy issues, and he reveals to her that his issues with his mother come from the way that he lost her. So already he is kind of opening up to her a little bit, and I'm sure down the road he is going to confess to her his true identity, how they follow a similar code, and I cannot wait. I am loving these two together. And we do get quite a bit more of them in this episode. Dexter has questions about Prader, and him and Mia are going to meet up tomorrow alone. And so on the way out from Prader's mansion, Dexter thanks him, and I think he genuinely means it. He says that tonight I said things out loud that I've never said before. I didn't realize how I needed this. After he leaves Prader, he of course gets 2 chili dogs because the poor man must be starving after that vegan meal. Dexter gets home and he sees Blessing's family through the window, and he says to himself, these are good people, but they're not my people. And then he texts Mia. Again, I am just already loving this little connection that he has with Mia, and I cannot wait to see more. And then Harrison and Elsa are hanging out. She invites him to stay to sleep on the couch, and he goes to kiss her, and she rejects him, and then he leaves. Poor Harrison. And then we had a funny moment with Dexter and Harry in the car, and Harry smacks Dexter upside the head. Dexter calls up Lowell because he needs to take him out first before he leaves town, because Lowell is planning to kill someone before he leaves New York. And then Dexter and Mia are going for a jog together in Central Park, and I've been so excited to see this scene ever since we first got the set images. And Mia reveals that this is her 4th year going to Prader's events, and Dexter says you must enjoy it, but she says I enjoy the money. So again, I really don't think she's into all of this. She just wants the money, really, and I don't blame her. Dexter's trying to kind of get to know her better. He asks her where she grew up, and she tells him a little bit about her backstory. She moved all around with her mother because she was always jumping from one man to the next. She reveals that her mother's boyfriend was a creep, and she got out of there, but her younger sister, who she described as an angel, didn't. And she killed her mother's boyfriend. So that was her first victim, and ever since then she's been following this code of only killing sexual predators. And then she invites him back to her place for some pastries, and I think she said that she lives in an Airbnb, which I think is interesting because I just assume that she lives in New York City. I mean, this is her 4th year going with Prader. Of course, she could just be in town visiting, kind of like the tattoo collector is. Same with Rapunzel, he's just there visiting. But she works as a sommelier, and I kind of just assume she lives in New York City, but I don't know. If she's living in an Airbnb, maybe she's from out of town. And of course, she gives him a vegan pastry. This guy cannot catch a break. She shows Dexter her trophies, and then she goes to take a shower and leaves the door open, and Dexter is like tempted to go in, but he leaves and he's going to like meet up with Lowell. And man, in this moment, I was like, no, go in the shower with her. I want these two to hook up so bad, and I cannot wait. I think it's inevitable, it's going to happen. Dexter meets up with Lowell, but Lowell wants to sort of reschedule because he says, tonight's the night. The tattoo artist, her tattoo is done sooner than expected, so he is ready to kill her tonight. And he reveals that his job as an anesthesiologist helps him out because that is how he makes his victims pass out. And that is where the mask comes into play when Dexter takes out Lowell, because I saw that in the trailer. We did a trailer breakdown here on the channel where I saw Dexter overpower Lowell and put some sort of mask on him, which we do see in this episode, and I was wondering how that would come into play. And now Detective Wallace is still looking into Ryan Foster and Harrison, of course. Her and Detective Oliva both agree that it's unlikely someone as young as Harrison is capable of a kill so sophisticated, but she says we must be missing something. And I'm thinking to myself, the connection that she's missing is like the Bay Harbor Butcher. And then of course, Angel shows up and they're gonna put it all together. This is gonna be insane. And then Lowell is stalking his next victim. Dexter intercepts, and he uses the tattoo parlor as a kill room because it would have taken him 2 hours to get back to Queens and get all of his tools and everything. So the parlor had everything he needed, like plastic wrap, gloves, and then he uses Lowell's own tools. And then Dexter slices his face, so he is back to collecting his trophies. Dexter says to him, "You're right about one thing, tonight's the night." And I've just been waiting for Dexter to say that line. And Dexter says to Lowell, usually this is the point where people start to freak out on the table. And Lowell says, "I know it's inevitable, you're about to kill me. Can you at least knock me out?" Dexter asks him, "Why do you keep the skins?" Lowell says, "They calm me." Damn, I'm gonna miss them. I was just loving this scene. There were a lot of little good moments. And then Dexter breaks the glass that was like on a picture frame in the tattoo parlor. So that is what he's using as a blood slide. And I was wondering from one of the trailers why the blood slides seem so big. And it's because it's actual glass from a picture frame. We do get the blood theme from the original show, which I loved. And then Lowell says, "That's your trophy?" Pretty lame for someone who saws off heads. And Dexter tells him the truth. He says, "I'm Dexter Morgan." Lowell says, "Who's that?" Dexter says, "The Bay Harbor Butcher." And Lowell screams, and then Dexter kills him. Oh my god, this scene was so freaking good, you guys. I'm so happy that we already got another kill so quick after last week. I was wondering if he was going to kill Lowell right away or if it was going to kind of take a couple episodes. He's going to pick these killers off one by one, so hopefully we get another kill next episode. And then Dexter drives the body to be incinerated. We get another cute little moment with Harry and Dexter in the car. Dexter's like, "Sorry, we didn't have the father-son relationship you dreamed of." And Harry says, "I had to stop worrying about what I wanted, but rather what you needed, and I wouldn't have it any other way." And Harry is trying to convince Dexter to reunite with Harrison, and Dexter's worried. He's like, what if he'd rather I stay dead? And then after Dexter incinerates the body, I love this moment when Dexter says to him, "Weren't you the one who told me to kill Lowell?" And Harry gives this funny little shrug, and Dexter gives an eye roll. It made me laugh. I think their relationship and their chemistry in this show is just so cute and funny, and I think they're doing a really good job. And then Lance is upset with Harrison because he thinks that he sold him a stolen truck, and Batista shows up again, asks to get coffee with Harrison, and he gets right down to the point. He says to Harrison, Ryan came in 1 piece and left in 9 pieces. That's exactly the way the Bay Harbor Butcher did it. I talked to Wallace, the cleanup was impeccable, almost as if the culprit was an expert or learned from one. Harrison says that sounds crazy, and Batista says less crazy if you know the son of a notorious serial killer was at the hotel that night. I haven't mentioned you yet to the cops, but I'm just looking for confirmation. Batista calls Dexter some sort of dark avenger. Batista says, my wife LaGuerta died, your Aunt Deb died, your mother died because of your father, and this is a dark path you're going down. I truly hope you won't become like your dad. This was so freaking intense. Like, they're really wasting no time. Like, this season is this crazy moment after crazy moment, and I'm absolutely loving it. And then Harrison is looking at the card that Claudette gave him to call her, and he goes to call her and it goes to voicemail, and I'm just thinking, oh my god, Harrison, you are tripping out right now. And then he goes to the freaking police department to, I don't know, turn himself in, talk about his dad. And then Dexter shows up. Oh my god, he puts his hand on Harrison's shoulder, and Harrison turns around, sees his father, sees that he's not dead. But I imagine when episode 5 opens up, we're probably going to open up on the same moment, and Harrison's probably going to think he's hallucinating because we've seen him hallucinate a bunch in these episodes so far, and then he's going to quickly realize, holy shit, I didn't kill my dad. Like, what the fuck? This is insane. This episode, oh my god, this was the best one yet out of all 4. They just keep getting better and better. Honestly, might be one of my favorite episodes of the entire franchise. It was so good. Finally getting to meet Leon Prader and all of those other serial killers was incredible. I am absolutely loving Mia so far. Lady Vengeance and her chemistry with Dexter already is incredible. I cannot wait for more. I am absolutely hooked. I am like about to go rewatch the episode because that is how good it was. But yeah, I'm hoping that Dexter will come clean to Lady Vengeance and tell him his true identity. I feel like he will. I feel like he has to. And I'm sure he's going to become a love interest for her, and I cannot wait. Like I said, it's feeling like old Dexter. I am loving that he has all these new people to sort of play with. It was nice to see him sort of fit in a little bit with this group, but knowing that he's going to also kill them is just so much fun. Like I said, I'm worried that Charlie is going to find out the truth, and that's going to be an issue. He's probably going to have to kill Charlie as well. I'm wondering if he's going to kill Prader, because he's technically not a killer, so he technically doesn't fit the code, and he also might not fit the first rule of the code, which is don't get caught, because he is a billionaire. He is a high-profile person, so Dexter might not have to worry about Prader talking about anything, because this can't come out for Prader either. So I don't know. I am so excited. But yeah, it's only a matter of time before Claudette and Batista really link up and start sharing notes, and it's all gonna come unraveling soon enough. The writing is just so good. The acting is phenomenal. Even visually, the show is just amazing, and I cannot say enough good things about this. I have not been disappointed by a single thing yet, so hopefully they can keep this up for the whole season. I have high hopes. This episode was an absolute 10 out of 10. Honestly, 11 out of 10. I am so excited for next week. And yeah, let me know your thoughts. There you have it. That is my pretty thorough recap, little review thrown in there. Let me know your thoughts. What was your favorite part of this episode? Because there was so many good things about it. All the scenes at Prader's house were absolutely amazing, especially seeing all the trophies and the trophies of the killers that we know from the original show. That was incredible. And then also when he killed the tattoo collector was like the best scene. And I can't believe him and Harrison are already reunited. I cannot wait for next week. Please give this video a like if you enjoyed it, subscribe to the channel if you're new here, because you don't want to miss out on future Dexter videos. Not only are we doing these weekly recaps, but I also like to throw in some theories and predictions throughout the week. I also do a promo breakdown when they give us the trailer for next week, so that will be coming up in the next couple of days. Please also go follow me over on TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram, and I will see you guys next time.